Let's go ahead and click the record and speaker's not working properly. Okay. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Totally fine. Okay. All right, we're in it. Coaches coaching, coaches coaching. My favorite part of the week. Okay, so today, guys, we're talking rotary stability. So looking at FMS, you've got 7 screens, overhead squat, inline lunge, hurdle step, all that good stuff. We're talking about the very last one, rotary stability, and primarily because we've got some lifts in the upcoming phase and some movements, I should say lifts, movements that are great movements, lift, chop, bear crawls, bird dogs. Those are kind of the 3 things we're going to talk about today. But we don't have a ton of familiarity as a company, primarily with lifts and chops. And then also just from a coaching aspect, making sure we're all on the same page as far as what the expectation is with rotary stability, what to expect, what we think, why we do it, why it's important, all that good stuff. So first, I want to just kind of talk rotary stability, why it's important. So let's do that first. So with rotary stability, basically if I'm looking at an FMS test, and maybe Nick, I'll use you right now. Do you mind showing the FMS screen, what that test looks like if I'm doing an FMS screen on rotary stability? So with the test, you're on all fours on rotary stability. He's going to we'll do the left side first. He's going to take his left hand, left knee. He's going to extend his left leg and extend the left arm. And then he's going to try and bring his, yep, exactly. And then he's going to bring his knee to elbow and then extend again. There you go. So that's the first part of the rotary stability test. If he struggles with that, then we do opposite, right? So we do opposite, left hand to right knee, extend, and then elbow to knee, and then going out, right? So that's what you're typically testing on. Not typically. That's the test for rotary stability. Go back to that position real fast again, Nick. So you notice that when he did the left arm, left leg at the same time, off balance, right? Or sorry, no, other one. Left arm, left leg, same time, same side. Yep. Yeah, it's hard, right? It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Face the camera for us real quick, so we can see kind of your movement. Face your head towards the camera, your butt away from us. Yep, perfect. Do the same exact thing, left side only. So watch him as he does his left side. See how he's tilting over to the right, obviously, right? He's needing to compensate for that. So this is the rotary stability test, okay? And the reason that this is important is because what you're looking at is with rotary stability, it's movement with, it's stabilization within movement, right? So if you look at the 2 words, rotary stability, right? I'm looking at rotary is movement, stability is stabilization. So it's, can you stay stable while moving? That's a very simple way of looking at rotary stability. Can I stay stable while moving? Like, can I keep my spine stable while moving? Okay, and that's what we're looking at and addressing, with rotary stability. Other thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I read a thing from Charlie Weingroff, and he said it was really interesting because at first he didn't understand why you always start with the same side when you do the test. But the rotary stability test was developed based off of our, how we learned to move, our developmental sequence. First, we learned how to roll ipsilateral with one side. Then we learned how to stable ourselves with a crossing pattern. So that's why they always test first the 3rd position, then go to that 2nd position Nick did. Because it's just based on that crawling pattern and learning to roll and then to crawl. And FMS is heavily based on developmental sequence.
Perfect. Okay, so that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of rotary stability. Like I said, stabilization with movement. So we're going to talk through some of these things. We're going to have Nick demo again. Other thoughts, though, before we do. Nick, did you have something? Okay. I'm going to have Thane coach Nick through a lift and a chop. here in a second. But does anybody have any questions on Rotary Stability and kind of the importance of it, why we're doing it, kind of the background behind it? Does anybody have any questions or concerns on it before we start talking through movements? Makes sense. Okay. So, Thane, why don't you, I'm going to spotlight Nick, and then why don't you, let's talk chop and lift. What are you looking for? What are you coaching? Go ahead.
Okay. So, we're always going to, so you could use two different things. You could use a band or you could use a kettlebell. We're starting with the same thought what Lane was talking about is being infant. So you could even start the furthest regression down on your back, actually. So just lay down on your back, Nick. Take the bell. You can put it on your right hip or your left hip as you want to start. Pick it up. Yep. And then you're just going to make that lift and chop motion as you go through. On this one, it's a lot better with a band, if you have one, rather than a kettlebell.
So do this real quick. Get into a tall kneeling position, Nick, just so we can see you, what you look like. So basically, when looking at lifts and chops, it's always the same thing: hip, chest, overhead. Whether you're going in that chop motion, whether you're working up or working down, whether you're lifting or chopping, it's the same thing: hip, chest, overhead. So you can go back to that ground position if you need to. Sorry, Thane.
No, that's great. So then, Nick, no, stay up there. So now we're just going to go tall kneeling. So now he's got 4 points of contact, and he's going to do that exact same motion there. Yep. Once they can own that, then I'm going to have him go to 3 points, and he's going to go up through.
When he
now,
says 4 points, sorry, real quick, Nick, turn to your right for me on the half kneel. Sorry, on the tall kneel. So when he says 4 points of contact, he's referring to knee, foot, right? Yep.
So even there, I could even tell Nick to make it a little bit more challenging is I want you to follow the bell with your eyes. So if he looks down at it, he's got to watch where it goes the entire time. Okay, now we're going to go to 3 points. So we're going to go into half kneeling. I'm going to have him do the same thing. I want him to look at that bell, kind of take it. I like to cue people. I'm taking the box from the floor, and I'm going to put it up on the shelf. I got to watch what I'm doing.
That's a good way of putting it. Taking a box, put it on the shelf. That's a great way of putting it, actually.
Okay, now from this point, I'm going to have him go in line.
Wait. Sorry, real quick. So Nick, do that movement a couple more times real fast. So watch his spine, right? If I was looking at him, basically head to crotch, his spine, right? He's staying stable that entire time while moving, right? So going back to rotary stability, I'm rotary moving, but I'm maintaining stable spine throughout the entire movement, right? That's the biggest thing you want to think about whenever you're coaching any type of rotary stability movement: stable spine, movement with the limbs. Keep going.
So now,
hey, RJ.
Quick question.
Yep.
Just to be specific, stable lumbar spine, we want them rotating too, right?
Yep. There you go. Thank you.
yeah, so so now I'm going to have Nick going in line. If you guys don't have anything at the gym, you could go to Home Depot. We just get some little 2x4s. And it makes it, the clients actually like it a lot. This one's really challenging. Nick's got one a little bit. So we're going to be in line, and he's going to do that exact same pattern. Now, if you look at it, he could probably tell you if you don't look at it, it's a little bit easier. Perfect. So then from this one, I'm going to have him do an ISO hold. So I'm going to say, Nick, I want you to bring.
Sorry, real quick. saying just that real fast. Okay, so one reason for the board. Why do you use the board?
It helps you to do a lot more recruiting for stability. Can you even stay on that board and then go through that movement? So essentially, it's just like the FMS screen. You know, we're doing that in line, but now we're just adding a rotary to it.
Yeah. Because
So
usually, guys, what will happen when people set up, and you've seen this before, is they'll set that front foot. So it's face us, Nick, real quick.
Do what? Sorry.
Face us, so we can see your chest. Face us.
Face your way?
Yeah, just turn towards us. Just turn towards us. No, just move your whole body. Yeah, just do the whole thing. Yep, perfect. So guys, when people typically set up, take your right foot, move it over about a foot to your right. Yep. Typically when people get into this inline lunge, and we all do it, I do it myself, we usually end up in this position where that foot is now out. So now when he's doing that chop, that right foot is now able to help stabilize him. Right? So that's why Shane's talking putting the foot on the board, because now, take that right foot, put it on the board, Nick. Now he's in that true inline lunge, and now it would be like if you took your feet and you just were in a squat position, you had your feet wide and you bring your feet together, you're more stable with your feet wide than feet together, right? So that's why he's using the board.
Yeah, it hurts like crap on the other one.
So,
okay, so go ahead, Shane.
Again, once he can own this movement, then we're going to have him go into an ISO. So it's going to be an inline. So he's going to go back into that inline. And then his back knee is going to come up just an inch up off the ground. And we're going to do the exact same thing. This is a lot more challenging. The first thing people... What's that?
Not at all.
So the first thing people are going to do is they want to bring that knee up a lot higher, and they're going to stop looking at the bell, because once I stop following it with my eyes, it's like it becomes a lot easier. So you just want to continue to coach them, is watch what you're doing. I got to look at this box, and I got to put it on the shelf. Then my next one is I could do, so now you're going to go to 2 points. So he's standing 2 points. So now he's standing. I'm going to have him just coach him through that same movement. So, yep. Then I could do a dynamic with it. So I could add a little squat, add a squat, and then do that same movement, Nick. And this one's going to be a little bit more quick. This is what you want to do fast. And then you can just go from this point, Nick, you can just go to a single leg. So again, my balance.
In theory, I could.
Yep, that's fine. So that is your chops and lifts. So I like bands better. If you don't have bands, then a kettlebell. If you do a kettlebell in line, that works really, really well.
So guys, the whole time, by the way, Nick has been doing a lift, right? So you got lift, chop. He's been doing the lift part, right? With the band, you can set the anchor point high, and now you're doing a chop movement. It's the same exact movement, basically overhead, chest, hip, right? Like Shane talked about, taking the box, moving it to the shelf. You're just doing it in reverse. Now you're just taking the shelf. Yeah, you're taking the box from the shelf and putting it. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I almost killed my son. Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But thank you for demonstrating. But that's how it would be.
Okay, so on lift chop, like he was saying, you got the points of contact, so we can mess around with the points of contact. You got the eye movement. One thing too is breathing. Okay, you want to make sure that we're breathing. One of the things I've been coaching is exhale. So if I'm going from hip to chest and overhead, I'm going to take a big exhale going from that chest overhead. Once again, that exhale is going to engage the core. Once again, I'm looking for stabilization while moving. Rotary Stability. Stability Rotary. Okay. Any questions on lift chop? Anything else, Thane, that you've got on lift chop before we go to?
The only thing is, I think usually typically with males, they'll try to use a lot more weight and try to use their arms, especially on bands. They'll compensate and want to use the biceps and the triceps rather than what's really going on. So sometimes it's even the lighter, the lighter is going to be the better.
Yeah. And I agree with that completely. Usually what'll happen, guys, like my favorite thing is an inline lunge. I did this with a couple of trainers last week or 2 weeks ago. We were doing inline. We were doing the inline. We were doing, I think it was chop. I had a bunch of people grabbing heavy bands, but they had their foot, like I was saying before, they had their foot to the side where they were able to stabilize themselves. So all I did is move their foot and put it in line, right? So I took the foot, here, let me show you real quick. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So I took the foot, right, their feet, you know, rather than being in line here, their foot was clear out, giving them a chance to stabilize. And I know I'm not giving a great thing to the camera, but you get what I'm saying. So all I did is move their foot in, and then they weren't able to even complete the movement because the band was too much for them. So anyways. Okay, does anybody have any questions on inline, or sorry, chop lift? Nope. Okay, oh, let's see. With the lift, watch the lower back getting overextended. Yep. So Jesse has a great point here. So what will happen, especially if people are using heavier weights, and you can do it with lighter weight, Nick, is they'll overextend. Yep, exactly. They'll extend their back and they'll start to bow themselves up to press it over their head. Usually
that's when they'll use too much weight too.
Yeah, usually that's an indicator of weight.
Because they're just resting on their spine.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Okay, let's talk through bear crawl. Bear crawls or bird dogs? Which one do you guys want to do first? Doesn't matter to me. Let's see. Dane, why don't you coach Nick through bear crawls?
Okay. 1 second. I got to go somewhere where it's quiet.
Oh, okay. If you're Lane, how about you do it?
Okay, so what I always have you do on bear crawls, Nick, if you can put your hands directly under your shoulders, and then can you have your body sideways facing us? Yeah, perfect. So notice how Nick's hands are right under his shoulders and his knees are right under his hips. Now, before we load the crawl, what I want you to do, Nick, is take your right hand and move it forward about 4 inches. And now move your left knee forward about 6 inches. Okay, that's what you're going to do. Now reverse that. Perfect. Now do it one more time. Just get used to that pattern. Okay, you're moving opposite limbs. Excellent. Now, hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. I want you to lift your knees an inch off the floor. Perfect. Now do you feel your core having to brace your weight? Now do the same thing. Move your right hand forward with your left knee at the same time. Slide knee to wrist, and then now do your other hand, other knee. Boom, boom, perfect. And you're focusing on keeping your back parallel with the floor, and your eyes are looking about a foot in front of you. Good form, that looks great.
Awesome. So a couple things real quick.
Conan.
What's that?
Yeah.
Following.
Yeah. So, Nick, can you, I want you to do it how a lot of our clients are going to do it. Okay. So before you do that, okay, do some bear crawls, but give me some excessive English on your hips. Okay. So get those hips rotating side to side a lot. This is what you're going to see a lot from clients where their hips are really moving up and down.
It's really hard in like a 12 by 12 space here.
Yeah. No, but you can see how Nick's hips are really shifting, lots of weight shift going on. And that's going to be really common because people they don't have rotary stability. Okay. So when you see somebody do this right out of the gate, you're going to know, okay, this person doesn't have great rotary stability. Every once in a while you'll teach the bear crawl and somebody will do it perfect. They've already got great rotary stability. So now what he can do is he can put a cone and a ball on his low back. Normally you're going to place this as the coach on their low back. And now this is going to force you to control the spine. There you go. Yep. Perfect. And that way it's just going to be a teaching tool for them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Someone that's got their hips all over the place, if they have to have something on their low back to stabilize them, they're not going to be able to move their hips, right? This goes back to what we talked about, I think it was last week or the week before, internal versus external cues, right? And kinesthetic cues, right? This is a great way, a tactile cue to be able to give them something without you having to do anything as a coach. You literally put that thing on their low back and just go, hey, don't let it fall off. That's it. I just coached you without coaching you.
That's that one thing right there. If they can't do it right, you put the ball on their back, it'll give them a ton of feedback, better than what your voice can give them.
And it's fun.
Yep. So the other thing too, obviously we see hips in the air. That's another big one. How are you guys correcting that? They're getting their butt in the air.
I mean, I always start just with verbal cues, and then if not, I have them just reset up. Go back, put your knees on the floor, and then a lot of times I'll just put my hand under their knee and say, okay, that's the how high I want you off. And then it's just going to be a lot of coaching. I need to go back. Sometimes I'll push their low back down with my fist. But it's that one's going to be a lot of reminders because most people do it. The reason they're not is because it's actually making them use their core and they don't like it and they're not used to it. So they're wanting to cheat by lifting their hips and take their core out of it. And so it's also reinforcing and reminding them this is a core exercise. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. And bear crawls they're exhausting.
I think even using the name Sneaky Bear like Brendan does kind of helps a lot because they just want to do like old high school style.
Yeah.
Instead of controlled.
No, and that's right. A lot of times when you get people with butt in the air, they're trying to, like you said, they're avoiding engaging their core, but they're also trying for speed. They're used to the old-fashioned football bear crawls. We're going to bear crawl up the hill, bear crawl down type of thing. And that is not what this is at all, right? This is rotary stability.
So I also, just like going off what Lane was saying, you're going to have to kind of repeat, just an inch up off the ground. My knees are an inch up off the ground. I stole RJ's coaching cue, especially in groups. Instead of calling one person out, if 4 people are doing crawls, I'm always just saying, I'm thinking, because RJ always says, I'm thinking. Hey guys, I'm thinking, and knees inch up off the ground, inch up off the ground. And repeatedly saying that, and then people actually do it a lot better job if you say I'm thinking rather than attack them saying, Nick, you suck, get your butt down.
Yeah. You don't suck, Nick. We love you. So with variations on bear crawl, we've got lateral bear crawl is one that will be in the next phase. Lane, why don't you talk through that for a second?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just people are not used to moving laterally, so you got to slow it down again. When you have, especially like things talking about with a group, you've got a whole group doing lateral crawls and they've never moved laterally in the recent past, slow it down, right? So just, I like to do these, demo them in front of them a lot and then slow it way down. So Nick, lift your knees up, and now you're going to do the same thing. I want you to move your left hand towards the camera and now your right knee towards your other knee. Yep. And now move your right hand and your left, and now switch. Yep. Now we're going to just go through this slow together, and then they'll just copy me. Like the demo on this, to me, when I coach a group, is really important that I demo it laterally. And then a lot of times, because this takes a little bit of time when you're doing bear crawls, I'll get down on the floor with my group in the middle of them and just go slow and keep their pace so that they can practice it. Because they're going to have to look at me, go back to what they're doing, look at me, go back to what they're doing, and then they get it pretty quickly. But it's just getting used to doing the exact same patterning. It's just now laterally.
So one thing on this, hands. Do we want to cross hands, not cross hands?
I would say don't cross
Don't
hands.
cross in this one.
Why not?
Puts too much pressure on your shoulder, and you got to cross over. So that, there's just too much going on.
One of the benefits of this exercise is you're actually trying to build shoulder girdle stability. And so if you're loading your shoulder in a cross pattern like this, it's just going to put a weird strain on your shoulder. So you want to be able to keep it underneath the body.
Yeah.
So, along the same lines. Sorry, go ahead, Thane.
Oh, no. Go.
Well, on the comments, Nate has a comment on the wrist, and this would apply to crossing hands over as well. You know, he says wrist pain in the exercise, people complaining about that. Usually the best way is to just have them grip the floor with their hands, and that will help take away some of that wrist pain.
That's true. And that when you grip the floor, it turns your rotator cuff on.
Yep, exactly.
So, and then if it does continue to hurt his wrist, then I'll just put him in a bird dog, and if that's hurting, then you can just go right into a dead bug. So it's going to be the same, that same move.
Exactly.
So
if you've got someone with wrist issues, which there is that exists, and even if they grip the floor, they're still going to have problems. You can literally do the same exact movement on your back.
And then if I was coaching with Nick and I wanted to make that lateral or bear crawl harder, I just have him pull a weight through while he's crawling. So if he's going on the lateral side, he's going to come towards,
Those are killer.
Those are.
Like exhausting.
So
you're awesome.
Those are just your quick progressions and regressions. But again, I'm a fan. They got to own the movement first. We're looking at their hips. But we still got to give them fitness at the same time. So don't try to coach perfection. We got to coach just the minimums to get them so they're not going to be in pain, but also getting better.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk. Last one we wanted. Does anybody have anything else on? For the sake of time, we need to kind of rush through this. But does anybody else have anything on bear crawls before we do bird dog as our last one?
Jesse just brought up a good point, just about like where your head position is at. And I didn't mention this when I was coaching Nick on it, but you do want to be looking slightly forward. I mean, you're not cranking your neck up, but you do want to look where you're going. So now you can see Nick can keep his eyes on the horizon without going into a big cervical or a C-spine extension. Yeah, that's a little much, but just enough so where he sees where he's going. And Jesse brought up that question. So yeah, I just want to mention that.
And one thing on that, with the original strength, those guys push a lot of C-spine mobility and moving the head and all that different stuff, which is great. But we don't have to overcomplicate things on it. Okay, bird dog.
Where you're going? Yeah.
Let's see, Thane, you want to coach through bird dog?
Yep. So he's setting up just quadruped. We could go, there's a couple things. So you could go left hand first, Nick, in front of you, and then your right leg goes back. And we could hold that position.
So on the program, phase 1, bird dog holds is one of the mass drills that we do. This is one of them.
Yep. So if I were hit, and if I needed to make this a little bit more challenging for Nick, so your left foot, will you just bring it up, leaving your left knee on the ground? So as he comes up, now it's a little bit more challenging on this end.
Right.
Okay.
You
then
took a point of contact out, right? So you went from 3 points to 2.
Yep, and you can see it's a little bit more challenging for him. So then you could just reset, Nick. Now we could just do your classic bird dog, which is you go right and left leg now, and your elbow and knee are going to try to touch. And we're just looking to make sure they're not going too far. Having that elbow and that knee touch, again, yep, we don't want that backgrounding too much. Can they? There you go.
Once again, stabilization in the spine, rotary in the limbs.
Now, again, if I wanted to make this harder, I'd say, Nick, do just your knee and so go back to that right hand out, left leg. Now bring your right leg up, leaving your knee on the ground.
Wait.
So, yeah, left leg stays out. Take your right foot and pick it up. Yep. Now I want you to go through that. Try to have your elbow and your knee touch. Perfect. I love the breathing.
So that's a big thing, guys. Exhale, making sure we are breathing in this movement and coaching the breathing. Every time they extend themselves, right, they are taking their body, they're extending their limb, right? They're putting more pressure on their core. Every time, the further this hand gets away from my body, right, the more pressure is on my core. As we're doing that, we're exhaling as we're going out.
So this one's a pretty simple but great for your core and also for your shoulders. But if he could own this movement, I'm just going to progress him pretty quickly. But this is for somebody that can't even do a bear crawl, can't even set up in this position. We really want to make sure that we're continuing to work this movement before they start doing anything else.
One other progression you can do, Nick, just elevate your knees an inch. Get really stable on that. Now do a bird dog. See how he lifted his knee, though? That's a really challenging bird dog, but now he's loading his core with his weight just like you would on a bear crawl. That's probably the most advanced progression.
Yeah.
Not very many people are ever ready for that, but just thought I'd show you.
Yeah. So guys, but the point is on these going back, anything else on bird dogs? Better kind of wrap this up. So going back to what we were saying at the very beginning, okay, rotary stability, stabilization within the spine, rotary with the limbs, right? All of those movements, whether you look at the lift and the chop, the bird dog, or bear crawls, you can look at a couple things are breathing, stabilization with the spine, right? Making sure we own the movement, okay? Making sure that we're utilizing the point of contact, right? I can easily take someone from 2 points to 3 points to 4 points to 1 point of contact with the floor, right? And those are a couple different ways that we can work that. But once again, it's rotary stability, stabilization, rotary. That's what we're thinking in this. Okay. Does anybody have any other comments, any other questions? We're over by a couple of minutes, but if anybody has anything at all, guys? All right. Hey, appreciate your participation this morning. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday.